Hi,
Hello.
everybody. It's Emily Dennison with Haley Moden today. Back on with the lender lowdown for this month. Haley, first question, as we always do. What are you seeing with interest rates and what is happening?
Really good question. So we are seeing lower mortgage interest rates than we've seen in a long time, which is great.
So exciting.
We're pretty excited about that dropping below 7, getting closer to that 6.5 for most borrowers. And then if you want like a 15-year mortgage, of course, that always comes with a little bit lower interest rate, but we could be even in a 5% range pretty comfortably if you're looking at shorter term mortgages. So yeah, good things for interest rates.
How does the conversation go to even get to the 15 year? Did he just have like so much down and he knew that it would work for him or?
Good question. So for this borrower, actually I have two borrowers, and they
Okay.
do. They both have a really big down payment. It's a second home purchase, second home being like the second primary
Okay.
home. They have a lot of proceeds from a home sale, so they're like, you know what, we don't want to be strapped with a mortgage for another 30 years.
Sure.
What would it look like to shorten that term? Overall, it's a lot less interest paid, right? You're paying a lower interest rate first off, and then second off, shorter term.
Yeah.
And so they really liked that. And then just knowing that they'll be just on that accelerated payoff plan
Right.
for a 15-year. So they liked that. And the loan sizes are smaller. So like one of them's just 175,000.
Oh, okay.
So that
That's pretty
payment
small.
was very comfortable for the borrower. So yeah,
That makes
that was all good.
sense. Okay. Well, that's
Yeah.
good to know. Do you ever do the math for somebody? And is it more of a play for you to look at finances and be like, hey, I think a 15-year might work here? Are those ever even slightly comparable with the big difference in interest rates or?
Good question. Yes. So let's see, it was for a 30-year for the same borrower with the 175 loan amount. The 30-year was 6.375, and then for the 15-year it was 5.875. So pretty drastic
Yeah.
difference on rate there. The biggest thing is knowing one, how comfortable and stable the borrower is financially,
Okay.
because you could always take a 30-year and just make extra principal payments
Sure.
towards that loan, and pay it off sooner. So like you're not strapped to paying a full 30 years if you're in a 30-year mortgage. You could pay it off sooner. But this borrower was very comfortable financially with the higher payment that comes with a 15 years. So that's where we kind of leaned that direction.
Yeah.
The other thing is that they didn't want to, again, have that full 30-year term,
Sure.
and just wanted that accelerated plan. And then the large down payment always helps too, just because it's those smaller loans.
Yeah.
So kind of all those factors. And then I also have a 20-year and a 25-year.
Oh,
So
you
sometimes
do?
that's
Okay.
a really sweet spot for a borrower in between the 15 and 30 year.
Got it. Do you know on like land purchases when it's
Yeah.
strictly just land, like a 15? Well, I don't even know. What if 15
Yeah,
year
that's a
makes
good
sense
question.
there? Or?
So land purchasers are so different. I don't finance land, so I don't know a lot about them.
Sure.
But most of the time it's an adjustable rate mortgage,
Okay.
and or it's a mortgage that's going to be rolled into a construction loan.
Yes.
And so
Okay.
then it's totally different terms, and like it's a fairly short term mortgage that you're going to hold on just land, and then you'll roll it into
Interesting.
construction or something else.
Land
So
is its own little world, right?
it is for sure. Yes.
So
Absolutely.
I'm seeing right now in the market, it's really interesting. So I would say like high, maybe 900 plus if it's priced correctly, it goes. And then if it's like 425 and under, we have some first time home buyers right now. And I have told them twice now, I'm like, that house is going to sit and it is gone after the weekend. I'm like, wow, what is happening? So the middle price points, I would say like 450 all the way up to like 850 seems to be a little rough where we are right now. But for the first time home buyers in this situation, what are you seeing as far as when you're pulling credit? Does it seem like a lot of people are qualified, not so much?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'd say more people are qualified than they think they are, which
Okay,
is kind of a
that's
weird
good to
thing.
hear.
But it's good. And then I'm getting the question fairly often, like, okay, borrowers qualified, maybe they have like a 720 credit
Okay.
score or a 750 credit score, and they're asking me like, hey, what can I do to improve that score? And of course, I always offer it, even if they don't ask. My credit report comes back with recommendations for every borrower on like how they can improve their scores and kind of an estimated trajectory for like how many points would potentially improve that score, and then how much money it would take, you know, if it's a payoff of a credit card or something like that. And so I love to offer kind of like that bigger credit picture advice, just because you just don't know, right? Like you don't really think about your credit scores unless you're applying for financing for something. So that's a big deal. I will say one of the most common things that I'm recommending right now is for borrowers to open a line of credit. So it's like a credit card, except for there's not a credit card attached. It's just a personal line of credit. And as far as I've experienced so far, they're all free to open. Like there's no cost to open a line of credit with your bank or your credit union. And then it increases your available credit to you. So that's great for your credit utilization ratios, because you're going to have all this credit. Like maybe it's a $5,000 line or a $10,000 line. And the other really cool thing about a line of credit is you don't actually have to draw on it to get the benefit.
I was going to say, so like don't even touch it necessarily. It's just there.
Yes. So that could be an option for a borrower who has really good credit history, you know, like everything they're doing right, so to speak. And they don't have anything in collections, and they have their good balances on their revolving credit, but they're like, what else could I do? So that's one recommendation for sure.
For the credit, like I think you said 720, right?
Just throw a number, yeah.
So let's say 720 is a good basis point, and then going up from there, like as I understand it, it gets better as far as what you're paying on a monthly basis. But is there ever within a realm that it doesn't change that drastically, so it wouldn't be necessarily to like pull the line of credit? Or
yeah, for sure. And the pull on the line of credit can be just like a little bit more of a long-term play too. If you're, you know, actively going after a house and your scores are good enough, maybe open the line of credit after you secured the house. If you're on a 12-month plan,
don't do anything unless you're told to do it.
Yeah, we don't want too many pulls on the credit report. But let's see, back to your question. For the interest rate, like the cost of interest rate is tiered, and then your mortgage insurance is also somewhat connected to your credit. So kind of those two pieces will be variables in the equation when it comes to exactly what your scores are.
Right.
You know, and the difference between a 720 and a 740 and a 740 and a 780. Once you're over 780, generally it's going to kind of all run together in terms of, you know, just being about the same, higher than that. So of course, if you go over 800, that's fantastic too. And just makes you a super strong credit profile borrower.
So let's talk about some of the debts that people have. I'm sure, you know, credit cards is a very common one. Maybe do medical debts count if they have like outstanding balances for medical?
Good question. Usually medical is actually exempt from our calculations, which is nice. It kind of depends on exactly how it's structured, if it's, you know, private or public or all the things. But we definitely take a look at it. It comes through on most credit reports. It depends on also medical debt often ends up in collections. So that would be something to note if that's a scenario, or if it's something that a borrower is paying on monthly. Collections, I would say, is the number one reason for borrowers having really low scores, in addition to just missed payments. So those are kind of big factors when it comes to lower scores. And it stays with the borrower for kind of a long time. I can't remember exact time frames for each of those, but it's years generally. That's going to have a negative impact on a borrower's credit history with those pieces. However, one thing that I often get questions on is a borrower has saved money for a down payment, and they're like, hey, I could use this money and I could pay off like a big loan, like a car loan, or a student loan. And then they're like, okay, is it worth paying that off or worth saving this money for a down payment? And it really is unique per borrower, but more often than not, it makes sense for them to put that money towards their down payment and not necessarily towards the payoff of a different loan. And sometimes we split the difference. I have a borrower right now who has, I think it's $7,000 left on a car loan, and she has $50,000 for her down payment. And so we're like, okay, let's pay off the car loan. She was comfortable with a little bit more of a mortgage payment.
Yeah.
And then she used the rest of it for her down payment. So
Nice.
that was a really nice sweet spot because, one, we freed up some cash flow on a monthly basis by getting rid of the car loan. And the second part is, of course, she still has lots of money for her down payment. So
yeah,
that was a really sweet
wiggle
spot.
room. So
Yeah, exactly.
wow. Well, wow. I think
All the
that's
things.
great. I feel like that was a lot of information. I didn't know a bunch of those things, and so that's why these talks with Haley are so interesting because, like, I'm not in the lending world, right? And so, like, I'm learn new things all the time too.
It's a big puzzle, and I love the puzzle. So yeah, I love, like, every borrower is just a little bit different.
Sure.
And I love when borrowers come and chat with me before they start paying things off or making big changes, especially with their credit. It's good to just have a conversation. I can run some theoretical scenarios and be like, hey, if you paid this off or if you paid this down, what that's like.
Which is a reminder to those who are looking to buy, even if you're just thinking about it, even getting started, getting connected with a realtor who will connect you with a good lender or vice versa. We're in it every day, and so we know. And so while you think something might be the greatest idea, there might be another way to reorganize it to where it benefits you even more. So lean on the professionals for that, and we'll try to help you the best we can. Any just things that are going on in your world as far as that are beneficial to the buyer, or anything you'd like to share as far as programs you have right now?
I would say the one last thing would just be credit. We're seeing a lot of fraud with credit, and it's just so frustrating for my borrowers, and I feel for everybody. But one way to protect yourself from credit fraud and or just like minimize the chances, it's not going to be an ultimate protection, is to what we call freeze your credit scores. So with each of the 3 different credit bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, they offer free, again, it is free to freeze your credit. And when you freeze your credit, you're not locking in those scores. It doesn't mean your score won't change.
Oh, okay, I see.
But it's locking your account. So no one can apply for credit in your name without you unlocking that account.
I see.
So yes, one more online password and username,
Sure.
but you probably aren't applying for credit every month or even every year. And so it's not too much of a hassle to jump in and unlock it for yourself when you need it, but it's totally worth the protection to prevent people from opening credit in your name without your permission. So freezing credit is something I would look into. Credit bureaus offer lots of extra services that are costly, which I don't necessarily recommend, but freezing is free. And again, your scores will continue to go up if they're trending up. They will go down if they're trending down. So not like you're going to lock your score, but really great for protection. I just had a borrower call me 2 weeks ago with a new credit card on her account, and she asked, what to do. Like, she's like, I didn't open this credit card.
Yeah.
So that was really unfortunate, but lots of things like that happen. So just another way to protect yourself.
Sure, that makes sense. It's a good one. I have mine frozen, so keep
Good.
that in mind.
It's just one of those things, you don't know what you don't know.
Yes.
And so some people are like, I just didn't know that was an option. So like, I called my parents and I called my grandparents. Tell them.
Lock it. I love it. Okay, well, thank you for all of that insightful information today, Haley. And we'll catch you guys next month.
Okay.